Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the AFO channel. Welcome back to the first AFO podcast in a bloody long time. I'm super happy to have you lot here. My name's Mano. I'm the commentator at AFO, the guy who runs most of the show, to be honest. And yeah, I'm just super happy to be here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us down here today. And let's get started on the podcast. First things first, I think you may have noticed if you've been following the streams, the mic quality is fixed. Turns out, plugging it into the BioShield and calling it a day is not maybe the best option. So it turns out if I plug it into a different port, it's actually fine now. So no more new mic needed. We can chill with this one. But yeah, super happy to have everyone here. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight or this morning or this afternoon or whatever you plan to do with your day. I'm gonna keep this quite brief because I understand it's the middle of the week. We've got stuff to do. But yeah, I'm gonna try and go through a lot of the headlines today in AFO and sort of get some narratives going on for just some of the things happening this season. We'll go in terms of like team order and sort of talk about their races, talk about people involved around it, and I think we'll just be able to filter our way through the storylines. But let's begin. So, in forward, let's talk about in forward. Let's talk about Jap and in forward. I mean, they've definitely they're leading the championship for a reason. They're 35 points at the moment ahead. As you can see on the there. Um, they are currently in the lead of the construction championship, and Jack Wagenvort once again leading the drivers' championship. The two-time world champion on course, or trying at the very least to see if he can get his third. Which will be massive in AFO history. But it's definitely, if this is the season that he's going to try and get his third, it's by far the hardest in my opinion, because there is some strong challenge coming from a lot of parties, and we're going to talk about everyone. We're going to talk about who can get the title. That's why we're here. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. I'm going to have a lovely time chatting about this, and we're going to get into it. So we'll obviously kick off where at Melbourne. And I think it was a bit of a shock to see. Well, not really a shock, but I think we kind of knew coming into that one that Ryan Hawke was going to be the fastest car, the one most likely to get pole position. He was lapping an insane amount of pace, and I think the shock kind of factored in towards the start of the season when before we even got to the race. We were looking at the lap times and we were just so confused as to how Ryan was on such amazing pace, and I think it really caught us off guard a little. And I think like because we were speaking about this in season 3, we were just talking about how unlucky KV season has been marred constantly by bad luck, by incidents, and but towards the end of the season we started seeing a lot more promise. Obviously the double podium in Bahrain, and we saw a lovely race from the boys in Abu Dhabi to round off the season. We knew that they were going to come back with a vengeance. And I think this new regulations, the slower cars, it's definitely helped them out quite a lot this season. They currently, KV unfortunately do sit third at the moment, but they're only 6 points behind. They need to see if they can get that second driver in, because we're going to talk about the other competition. But yeah, I mean, so where was I with this? Obviously, Ryan Hawke, Petar Prentić, two of the fastest drivers we saw. And it looked like Jap didn't really have much of an answer to the pace. I mean, he came to qualifying, only put it third. I think Petar Prentić put it fourth. Warlol Derrick, who had actually subbed in for the other in forward car. So Jap actually being out qualified by his teammate in P2. And then Ryan Hawke obviously on pole position. So it was a very interesting front field. Unfortunately, Ryan looked like he botched the start, mistimed his start, and that meant that Jap actually got an amazing launch down into turn 1 and completely avoided the anarchy that happened in turn 1, lap 1. And that just meant that Jap was in a really good position. Ryan managed to survive. Unfortunately, Petar Prentić got spun round, and his race was practically over from there. He did come back. He did come back through the field to try and score some points though, which definitely helped KV. And Warlol Derrick, he managed to stay at the front for a while until he spun out himself trying to overtake another car, and then that was his race practically over. So in forward, with then only having Jap in the points at that point. The thing is, Jap won that race. But if it wasn't for the poor pit stop, if it wasn't for the poor start, And if it wasn't for a 5 second penalty, that actually meant that even though Ryan won on track, he was unfortunately having to concede the win to Jap. It would have been Ryan's win. And I think Jap was quite honest about this in the post race press conference. He said that this was Ryan's win. It was he didn't have much of an answer for any of the things that were going on. Um, but he won. He won the race. And then we headed to, and then we went to Miami. Martin Van Land, the very experienced teammate of Jap in other leagues, making his AFO debut. He managed to Jap again couldn't get pole position. He was beat by James Knox. Well, a bit more on him later. Beat by James Knox, and then um unable to really contend for the win. Couldn't really get on. I don't think he got on the podium either. He got the podium in I think he got P2 in the first race due to penalties that were applied to other drivers, and then only managed P4 on the road in P in the second sprint. So cracks are starting to maybe show a little bit in Jack Wagenvort, but it's very early on in the season. I think if anyone's gonna overturn something like a good deficit or anything, it's gonna be Jap. And we're not even talking about deficits here. He currently sits in the lead of the drivers' championship with 34 points to Ryan Hawk's 27 points. So he's already got a bit of a buffer in front of him, and everything's gonna be sort of told in this Turkey race that's coming up. So definitely keep an eye on that. But an issue that I have been harping on for a long time with the in-forward outfit is their ability to have a lucky second driver. It just seems like that car is just cursed everywhere it goes. At the moment in forward, 35 points in the championship, only one of those points being scored by the second in forward car. 34 of those 35 points being scored by Jap, which in the long run is very, very it's a house of cards. If Jap has a bad race and forward is shooting down the order because the people behind them, we're going to get into them, are very, very notorious for fielding full lineups, and that will be the undoing of in forward if they don't get that sorted. Now, is there anything we can talk about positively about the team? Yes, they are in the lead of both championships. Let's not forget that. And Jack Wagenvort, one of the most technically sound, most let's just say he knows his way around the car. He's been doing sim racing for a very long time. Setup knowledge is basically his domain. So if he needs to, he can train up a reserve and try get them in for the race. And I think Martin's got a lot more to offer. We saw this in the Ginetta race. We saw this in the test cups. It just seemed like he was very unlucky with the results in Miami. And unfortunately, damage limitation is all you can do when you're starting at the back of the field in sprint 2. So for him to even come home with a point is amazing. So I think we shouldn't talk too much down on it forward, and it's too early in the season to even say, what's going to happen. But I like the fact that we can't tell what's going to happen, because that means that sport's unpredictable. We don't exactly know what's going to happen this season, and I love that. So, yep, keep an eye on it forward. They're ahead, but not by much. So let's talk a bit more. Let's talk a bit about Vegasport. Vegasport, Elliot Vegas franchise. And I think everyone sort of knew they were going to come in and sort of hit the ground running. It's not been that straightforward. Vegasport currently sit second in the championship, 3 points behind in forward, and it's been Elliot Vega's dream pretty much to make sure that Vegasport gets their constructors championship. This is probably their closest season where they can do it, but they are missing a massive weapon in their artillery, and that is Jorge Caro, a massive marquee signing that Vegasport did, taking the Blue Rays Racing driver who had just won the constructors championship with Evan Party back in season 3. And very, very aggressive title rival to Jap, I must not add. I mean, if Jap and Jorge were not locking horns in season 3, then that was not season 3. So Jorge Caro, he was going to make an amazing addition to this season. Unfortunately, I think due to personal commitments outside of the league, he has been unable to take up the main seat this season, and therefore he is being sorely missed in the paddock. Which has meant that Vegasport have actually taken up Mackenzie Thompson in the second Vegasport car. Now Simon Magavore, I think the sort of the label driver for Vegasport. He was expected to have a really good race coming into Melbourne. But Vegas Sport, I've kind of just seen a bit off the pace, unfortunately. In Australia, they didn't really seem like they had much of an edge. And I think Team Boss Elliot Vega was speaking about this quite often. He was saying like, he misses when in season three they came in as the new kids, and anything they did was seen as impressive. And now it's like if you get P3 or P4, you can't really be proud of that because you're expected to win. So that was pressure that he admitted that he was feeling. But coming into and unfortunately, I think they would have came back with a lot more points. In fact, dare I say they would be in the lead of the constructors championship right now had they not suffered the retirement of Simon Magavort in that feature sprint. No, in that season opening feature race. Unfortunately, I think he clipped one of the walls, sent his car airborne, and that was the last we saw of him. He had packed his bags and went to Miami, and unfortunately, that meant that Simon started off this season with 0 points. Mackenzie Thompson did good damage control to come back to the field and get P4, and that gave Vegas Sport 12 points. So it was a monumental effort from Vegas Sport to make sure they get those points. But they were outscored by Canberra Powerhouse, by KV. They were nearly outscored by Triple Eight Vauxhall, which really goes to show that there is more that they need to be getting out this if they want a Constructors Championship. And that's exactly what they did in round two. Simon Wagenvort able to utilize his father's setup, or so we've been told in the press conference, and come back home with P1 and P2 in Miami to get him 20 points in the Drivers' Championship. Sorry, 18 points in the Drivers' Championship. Now, while now it only seems that one of the sides of the garages can be doing well, because now that it was Simon's time to shine, Mackenzie Thompson had an absolute stinker. Now, as a media guy, as someone who watches the races and has opinions, I think it's very important to first of all state that, this is just a game at the end of the day. It's just for a bit of fun, and no one should ever encourage any sort of online abuse or anything towards anyone in this league, because at the end of the day, we're all here to race, and that's why we love being here. But that being said, it was very, very, very off the ball for Mackenzie Thompson. It was a very odd number of rookie errors, basically sideswiping one of the Vienna rookies off, sending a really weird dive bomb, sending around Walter Dunk. There was a lot of there was just so many instances, not instances, incidents caused by Mackenzie that definitely means, I mean, I personally think she will be getting a strike, because it was pretty awful driving, to be honest, from Mackenzie. And honestly, it was like seeing two different drivers. We saw Mackenzie Thompson, someone in Melbourne who was able to come home and scoop home a good amount of points, and then we saw the person at Miami, and I think home race and everything, and I don't know what happened. I think the amount of cars, just maybe the pressure got to Mackenzie, and we saw a lot of issues. I mean, we only had one full course yellow in Miami, and it was caused by her. So I think that's a lot. I think that says a lot about what happened. Elliot Vega's been very vocal on his support though for Mackenzie, and saying that, like every other team owner this season has been saying, we have 8 more races left this season, and if you technically split them all up into the individual sprints, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 races. We still have 12 more races left this season. So it's too early to say anything, and I think that's probably what I'd echo, So don't shut off Mackenzie just yet. Very fast driver, very capable driver. Had a big off day in Miami. It's definitely going to hurt confidence, but it's all about how you bounce back. So yeah, Vegas Sport have an amazing opportunity to take the championship if they play their cards right. Now let's talk about KV. KV, in my opinion, I had sort of backed as like where they are right now in P3. But the thing is, while they are in P3, they have an insane ability to also be contending for the Drivers' Championship, and I really hope they take it with both hands. Not drivers, sorry, constructors. In round one, if Petar did not get taken out, KV would have came over with more than 18 points. Instead, they only came home. In fact, no, sorry. I'm being stupid. Let me have a look and see how many points were scored. So Petar Brentich scored 2 points, and Ryan scored 16 in Melbourne. So that meant that KV came over with 18 points. But for Petar to even come home with two after being taken out right at the start of a feature race where you don't get the restart, insane work from Petar, and I think that's really applaudable. And unfortunately, we didn't have him in Miami, which is why we only had one KV car fielded. I think Anton was supposed to step in. He had some hardware issues, and that meant that KV were only fielding one car. But the damage limitation that KV put in, Ryan came back home with 11 points, and that meant that he still maintained second in the Drivers' Championship, and in the Constructors' Championship, KV are only 6 points behind, and obviously the Constructors is like it's like a championship on steroids. It can swing either way at any point. So I'm really excited to see what KV can do, but they need both their drivers. They're heavily missing Petar Prentić right now, and with rumors that he might not make Turkey as well. um, who knows? Who knows, man? So yeah, keep an eye on them. Ryan Hawk, definitely a driver for the future, and with also news that he may be opening his own team next season. But we'll talk about that later. We've got a lovely segment with all the future teams we can possibly be seeing in season 5. Fox Esports have then also taken me by a complete surprise, but not for the sense of the drives that they've put in, but more just in sense of the fact that they drove in the first place. Fox Esports, especially in AFO, very synonymous with their infamous Season 3 entry into the grids, but they didn't actually put in many races, and then they actually sold off their team to Aeron. Aeron C and Aeron CF, which are still an entity on the field, and then Fox Esports signed up again. So now they technically there are two teams on the grid, which both technically have at some point in their time been Fox Esports, which is kind of crazy to think about. But Fox Esports currently in P4 at the moment. And I think most of it, honestly, we'll talk about their driver pairing. So we've got Anthony Smith and Kwando Badu. And then obviously we have to mention the race winner, James Knox, who came in and won at Miami on a one-off race, or I think it's going to be a two-off now, because I've heard news that he may be taking part in Turkey, which will be lovely. I can't wait to see what James does there. But I think everyone in the AFO paddock knows James Knox, just how skilled of a driver he is. He just works on the weekends, so we don't see him race for the full season. But when he is able to show up, he puts up a lovely little scrap, and it's great to watch him. And James, he's as a result picked up for the team 16 points in Miami, to go on top of the lovely points that Kawando's been picking up. Kawando Badu picked up 6 points in Melbourne and picked up 3 points across both the sprint races in Miami. He could have picked up a few more if he didn't make that mistake, which put him into the wall in the final sprint race. But that was a hardware issue, so definitely worth mentioning that. Kwandu definitely someone to watch for the future. He's a very skilled rookie, and arguably one of the best rookies so far this season, alongside Walter Dunk, I would say. So we'll talk a bit more about Walter when we get there. But yeah, fantastic work so far from Kawandu, and I really hope he puts in some more amazing performances. Thanks to James Knox's point injection, Fox Esports now sit fourth in the Constructors' Championship, only 4 points behind the KV group. And if KV are unable to field both their cars again in Turkey, Fox Esports has an amazing opportunity to try and slip into second in the Drivers' Championship, or even first. So watch this space. The English are not here to mess around. We do also have to talk about Anthony Smith. Participated across all 3 races. Unfortunately, yet to score a single point. It's looking a bit dire, I'm afraid. But again, with every single team owner, and I think this is probably the PR answer, but I do think it's what everyone believes. Anthony has been given time by Fox Esports, and I think that's the best way to go about it. He did get loaned off to Vienna from Miami to make way for James Knox, and I think he will be loaned off again for Turkey. So the fact that he's being loaned off and not just told to sit on the bench is clearly evident by Fox Esports and James that they do want to give Anthony track time and to see him develop throughout the season. But at the same time, the fact that he's been nowhere near the points in the first 2 rounds of the championship, it definitely wouldn't be an amazing sign. But it's too early to tell. I think he will have a swing round in Turkey, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt, is what I'd say. So that's where Fox Esports are. Let's talk about the next team, Canberra Powerhouse. I'm going to try be as unbiased as I possibly can because, in case you didn't know, I do own Canberra Powerhouse. We'll talk about our boys. We've got Walter Dunk in the car and Alex Quansah, and I think so far it's been a fantastic return to form. I think if you look back at the history of Canberra in this league, we won the Constructors' Championship in Season 1 with a lineup of myself and Callum Morton. We won it in the final race of the season, which was a really dramatic way to end it. And then it just went downhill from there. I mean, Tiger Sport was the rebrand heading into season 2. P4 in that constructors then, and then possibly our worst season to date. I think we finished somewhere in P9 again as Canberra. It was mainly just a damage limitation season at that point. We had a very, very poor run of form. But the team, I mean, like we scouted out Walter Dunk, saw the potential he has, the work ethic. I mean, it was mainly the work ethic at that point. It was really, it was him hitting up my DMs asking when he's going to get track time, and at that point, it was like, well, I'm excited to see what Walter can do. We gave him the drive in the Janettas, and then he went and won the Janetta race, and immediately we started thinking, yeah, it's great. We've got our hands on a real gem here. We signed Alex Quansah for that stability and experience on the grid. And now we've came into the season and we're currently sat in P5 in the championship. And it's thanks to Walter and Alex. And, I think Alex, we'll talk a bit more about him later. But Walter, a fantastic job, to be honest, because he's really shown us the potential he has. Unfortunately, Miami also was a bit of a damage limitation weekend for him. But he came in with 9 points there and 14 points in Melbourne. So you can't count out Walter out of this championship fight as well. He's made it very vocal that he believes he is able to fight for the championship, which is insane because he is a rookie. Let's not forget he is a rookie. I think the next closest rookie on the grid is Kwando Badu. Yeah, it is. It's Kwando Badu. And the next closest rookie after that is Martin Van Landen, 15th. So, he is the highest placing rookie and he is currently in third in the championship. So, that's not came out of nowhere. It's definitely something to look at. And I think he is going to be a fantastic, fantastic driver. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get a win at some point this season. It's definitely calling his name. Let's talk a bit about Alex Quansah as well. I think I mean, if I have to give my unbiased opinion, as like the commentator, as the pundits, it's not been the start that Alex Quansah has wanted this season. It's pretty evident from the way he speaks post race and just from the frustrations that are coming on that 22 car. He's currently sat at the bottom of the field with no points. And he just doesn't seem to have much of a handle on the machinery. But the team is working hard. I say the team, it's mainly Walter, who again showing that amazing work ethic, trying to make sure he can pull his teammate up. And the two of them have an amazing working pair of connect. They have amazing connection together, which is why I don't, as the Canberra team owner, I don't want to change that lineup. I see immense potential in those two, and I'm really excited to see what those two can do over the next course of the season. So yeah, too early to tell. Too early to tell. In a season where we don't even know what's going to happen. Why are we talking about lineups already this early? So let's not do that. Then let's talk about Aaron in P6. Aaron, and wow, it's Aaron, they never cease to put a smile on my face, and like I genuinely can't control what's on my face right now. It's insane. Aaron, I don't know. You guys are just something else, man. Jairzinho Fernandinho's team entering their fourth season now in AFO. Actually, no, their third season in AFO now, which is pretty insane. And fielding a lineup of Murat Gunman and Hax Fatash. Dan Thine hopped in for the race in Miami and was able to come home with P5 and P3. It should have been two P3s, but unfortunately, a speeding penalty for Dan Thine meant that he was unable to get that podium at the end of the race. It didn't come easy though. He had to fight off Jack Wagenvort for nearly half the sprint, putting up an amazing defense masterclass. I'll definitely ask you to go check out that race broadcast if you haven't already, because we get some amazing angles of that. It's an amazing, amazing battle, and Dan, amazing driving. Again, I think a one-off for him, but him just showing that he has the potential. If he actually cares, then he's going to come in and he's going to drop an amazing job. So amazing from Dan. Was happy to see that. And yeah, um, let's talk a bit about Hacks Fatash. He scored the team's first points this season, which was pretty lovely to see. Actually, no, he scored his first career points in AFO, I think, or at least a season. I'm right about that. He scored 1 point for the team in Melbourne, and Murat Goodman came in with 4 points in the feature in Melbourne as well. So 5 points for Aaron coming out of the season opener. And then Miami, I think, was supposed to be a much better race for Aaron in terms of both cars. Obviously, we had Dan get amazing points results for Aaron in Miami, but Murat Goodman unfortunately unable to really benefit from his team's luck. He just seemed to be getting. He unfortunately had a run in with the Vienna car, and that meant that it was him basically out of that race. And then obviously, if you're working from the back of the field, it's pretty difficult at that point. So yeah, it was a bit unlucky for Murat, but I think we're coming up to his home race now. We're going to see a much fire. We're going to see a much different, fiery Murat. He's made it very clear he wants to win his home race. He echoes that with his fellow countryman Arda Simsek. This is one of the biggest races he's been looking forward to, basically his whole AFO career. So genuinely look out for Turkey. It's going to be fun. It's going to be good. So yeah, and then Hacks Fatash, obviously he stepped out to give Dan the car in Miami. Will we see him again in Turkey? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's looking good for Aaron so far. They sit sixth in the championship. They are currently only 2 points. No, they are currently 6 points behind Canberra Powerhouse and 5 points ahead of their nearest competitors, Triple Eight. So they're in a good space at the moment, but they'll have to work a bit harder if they want to move up further. Triple Eight. Let's talk about Triple Eight. Josh Everts, his own team, coming back into the field. And wow, what a season it's been for Josh. Obviously not being in last, that's definitely a start, and having good, competent drivers. Angel Arevalo coming home in P5 to get the team 10 points in Melbourne. Arda Simsek, unfortunately, unable to capitalize too much on his car, but he's been consistent. And I'm sure he's going to have an amazing race soon to come. And then Aldrim Kunas making his grand return to AFO after his ban got lifted, and he put in a lovely clean race to get himself 2 points. Is it 2 points? Let me see. Oh, hold on a minute. Let me see. Oh, my bad. My bad. Just realized there's an issue with the spreadsheet. Let's try that now. Triple eight. Okay, yeah, there we go. So they are actually 5 points behind Aaron. So not as far off as you thought. Yeah, so Triple Eight got 10 points in Melbourne. They came home with 3 points in the Miami rounds, and yeah, Aldrin Kunas coming home to get 1 point for the team, and Arda Simsek bringing home 2 points for the team. So they are picking up points wherever they go. That's kind of what the role is for a new team on the field. They are the I mean, if you count Fox Esports as their debut being in season 3, they are the newest team on the grid. So it's lovely to see them punching their weight and staying in P7 at the moment. We'll yet to see who's fielding in Turkey. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what Triple A get up to. We haven't seen too much from them, so not too much to comment on. But I'm sure in a week's time, I'm gonna have a lot to say. Let's talk about Vienna. Vienna obviously being Anton Capon and Elliot Vega, but that lineup has been changing around rapidly because it seems that Elliot has now decided to open up his seat to just any Vega Sport juniors. Obviously we didn't have did we have Elliot in the round opener? I don't even remember. Let's have a look. Vienna scored 8 points. No, yes, it was just Antoine at Melbourne. And Antoine scored a lovely little 8 points. Antoine unfortunately wasn't able to start Miami, which was pretty unfortunate, and I think a bit of a mishap on our side, our hardware wise. But that meant that Vienna then scored no points. They did still have Gabriel Grossi and Anthony Smith. So they did have 2 cars in the field, but they scored no points. And I do think was it Gabriel Grossi? No, it was I'm sorry, I'm getting the Italians confused. That's really rude of me. It was Pascal Fabosi. Pascal Fabosi filled in for Vienna and had an amazing race. But unfortunately, he got taken out by Mackenzie Thompson, the absolute pocket rocket, which sent him flying down the field. And then he also got taken out by Fred, which was wasn't great. And I think I really do feel for someone. I think a rookie, when you have that much pace, to get taken out completely and it just not being your fault, that's harsh, bro. So yeah, definitely do feel for Pascal, but he's got a lovely work ethic. I'm sure we'll see him again. Um, and then as for Anthony Smith, yeah, it's just I think Anthony's got a lot more in the bag. He's gotten good success in other leagues, so I think he just needs time to gel with the car, gel with the competition, sort of understand who he needs to pick fights with and who to leave them off for, and I'm sure he'll get some points. It's definitely possible. But yeah, that's Anthony Smith. And Vienna, I think Vienna in general, I mean, I've not heard from Samuel Gomez in a while, the team owner, but clearly that team's being run. Clearly they're able to field cars, so that's all that matters. Let's talk about uh, I mean, Vienna on 8 points. Their nearest competition behind them is SkyClan with 3 points. SkyClan, by the way, were going to be on an absolute slander fest if they didn't get that 3 points, but they got 3 points, so that's all I can say. And congratulations to them. There are 3 points being scored by Noah Sparks, who has made his return to the AFO grids last season, towards the end of last season for the SkyClan. He tried to see if there was a seat available at KV, but after there wasn't, he's came back with SkyClan. He's managed to score 3 points now at Miami. Basically kind of his home race. And yeah, it's been fantastic for Noah. Obviously, he's obviously aiming for a bit more. He's not been too happy with the machinery, but obviously, you know, on a track where he thought he was going to be finishing dead last, as he stated pre-race, he just came back home with 3 points, which has massively helped SkyClan in their battle for not last place. But that doesn't paper over the cracks in terms of the cracks that we are starting to see at SkyClan. It is looking very, very worrying. Um, they always come kitted out. They're like Sky Clan's like that one mate who like rocks up to the party with like a really nice fit. Like he comes with like a lovely jacket. He's got like rings on. He's got a watch on. He smells good. He comes to the gaff and he's hoping to get laid. But then he like looks around, checks his weather app, realizes nobody really fucks with him, and then he just heads home. That's basically Sky Clan, to be honest. And I'm not like that. It's just the same again this season. It looks like this season was something that they were really looking forward to, and unfortunately, it's not materializing for them yet. Every other team, in my opinion, it gets a bit of leeway because it's something that they're either not used to or it's something that it's a new scenario. But SkyClan have been at the back of the field for nearly 2 seasons now, and it's starting to look like it may be a third unless they don't pattern themselves up. I'm no expert, but if they hired me as an advisor, I would, I would look into moving Fred into a more of an advisory slash reserve role and try and get someone else into that seat instead to partner Noah because I am worried that if things do continue along this track, I do see Noah Sparks maybe leaving or maybe opening contract negotiations with other teams. So that's something Fred needs to be wary of. But that's just my 2 cents on it. But yeah, still early in the season. Don't count them out. Kuiper Darkstar. I think another team similar to how I would talk about SkyClan. I think Kuiper Darkstar, they sort of came in. Like they came. It's okay. Like again, at the party analogy, let's talk about like. So this is you've got this other mate, and like he's been talking about like, oh, if I was minted, like if I had a job, if I went to start hitting, as soon as I start hitting the gym, like I'm actually gonna be so ready. I'm gonna get bare girls, bro. Right? And like he's an attractive looking fella. He can do it. He's just been talking a big game, but you do see the potential, right? And then you rock up to the next party. He's got his paycheck. He started hitting the gym, but like nothing's happening. Like there's no like result of all that hard work. He's just sat there, and if anything, he's now dropped back down the field. Like it's like girls actually fancied him when he used to be broke, and now they don't. So it's like what's going on there? Um, So that's kind of Dark Star in my opinion. And it seems like they had a good trajectory going in last season, and now they've completely plummeted down the field. Jacob Ordonez, a very good driver in his own right, but he just seems to be marred with bad luck and inconsistency, and unfortunately, that's starting to reflect in the team's results. They had Joshua Serretto, another reserve driver, hop in for Joshi Mandelbaum, but unfortunately, they were both unable to really capitalize. They got 1 point in the first sprint, and that point was scored by Jacob Ordonez. So Jacob Ordonez scored a point, and unfortunately, the only point that that team has scored in the first three technically races of the season. So it's like, what's going on? What's going on? They've just inked a new contract with Thrustmaster. I don't know how they've done that, but like so, and Simon Pavlik is no stranger to the team management game. He knows how to make a good livery. He knows how to run his team. He knows how to be active. So what's going on? It's not really translating. At least they're not last, I'm about to talk about that soon. So, Clipper Darkstar, I love you boys. Patting it up because I know you guys can do better than this, I love you boys, so put some work in, And I know Jacob Ordonez was a bit unlucky with the incident in round one where he had some lag issue. And we saw this, like he's clearly scored a point in Miami, but I think he retired immediately after sprint two, and well, maybe something's gone on there. But he's a capable driver, so KDR, hold on to your boy because you don't want to lose him. All right, they've got a good partnership, they've got a good lineup. So again, too early to tell. I don't think this is where their indicative pace is. I would expect them to start picking up the pace come Turkey. Now let's talk about Banked GP, obviously in dead last. And Banked have I love Cash Aiello. He's a great guy. I love chatting with him. He's solid, but the team has to pattern up a little bit. I'm a little worried. They've yet to make an appearance this season. They've yet to field a car. And yeah, that's about it. Mason Clark rocked up for the opening round. I don't even think he got round to the start grids, and that was the last we saw of the banked car. They didn't rock up to Miami. We're hoping they'll rock up to Turkey though. I think Cash Aiello, in all due respect, is a good driver. He's definitely not the worst driver on the grids, and they have just signed Alex Tudori, dropping Mason Clark to reserve, and I think that was the best decision. I think see where I've said like I think SkyClan need to take action. The positive sign is that Cash Aiello has already took action. Like he's seen that this is not where he wants to be. He is trying to improve his situation for the team, and he's immediately taken action. He's dropped Mason Clark to reserve. He has signed new hotshot rookie, and he has made amends to come to the Turkey race. So I don't think Bank GP are going to be there for long. At which point, if I was SkyClan or a Kuiper Darkstar, I'm gonna start worrying a little bit because at that point it is just gonna be fighting for literally last place. So it's a bit difficult at the back of the field. And honestly, like every team gets a pass to stay in the grid, but if you're at the back and you're not scoring points, and then that's a management issue at the end of the day, and new teams might take your position. So, that's really the worry I have for those three teams at the back. But we'll see what happens. But that's really sort of the sort of review in terms of everything we've seen so far this season. I think we'll close off with just some of the news we've been seeing about potential driver transfers, team applications for next year. Let's obviously start off with Maryland Simsport. I think that's what their team is. So that's a team by Angel Aravalo. They've had an amazing proposal put through. It's just a shame that we have no more slots on the grid, and it's the start of the season. They're gonna have to wait at least until the end of September, or I mean, their earliest chance so far is until September. If a team drops off due to the 2-race inactivity rule, then they could be on the grid sooner than expected. Banked need to field a car here, otherwise they may be out. So that's really what Maryland will be watching. Maryland will be sitting there licking their lips like, Cash Aiello, my friends, do me a favor, yeah, just don't rock up, just don't get on that plane to Turkey. But yeah, so that's what Maryland are going to be watching out for. And then a team that has made themselves clear that they are planning to enter for season 5 is Hawk GP. Take any guesses as to who runs that? It's going to be Ryan Hawk, obviously. Ryan Hawk currently second in the championship. He knows how to race, so no doubts that he will know how to run a team as well. Does this mean he's going to be leaving KV? Current press report is no. He will still be involved in the KV lineup. Petar Prentić and Ryan Hawk both inking contracts already to confirm themselves until season 5, which makes Ryan Hawk have one of the longest contracts in AFO history, spanning from season 2 all the way to the end of season 5 with the same team, which is, massive achievement for Ryan. Happy to see that. And yeah, that's really about it in terms of the news. Let's see if there's anything else I can have a look at. Oh yeah, James Knox is no longer just a Test Cup winner. He's won his first race for Fox Esports and himself. And I think that is about it. I think that's about it for all of the news. Let's have a look and see. Oh, Elliot Vega will be filling in for KDR at Turkey, which is pretty insane. At this rate, Elliot might actually no, I don't think we're Mirat Gunman in season 3 was often referred to as the Bonnie Blue of AFO for the amount of team changes he made that season. I thought Elliot might start put up numbers on that, but I think he's got maybe at least 2 more before he gets that title. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what these lot do. I'm really excited to see how this race goes. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you get involved, because this community is always open for absolutely everybody. If you're accepting, if you're a sound lad, and if you want some of this amazing action that we have got going on here, or if you want to be part of the media team, if you want to join me on these podcasts, if you want to commentate, we've got it for you. We've got it for you, mate. So, take it from me, take it from my amazing, friendly face. Make sure to get involved. I'd love to have you here. We'd love to have you here. And thank you so much for listening. So that'll be it. Peace.